All right, guys, so we are definitely in the 11th hour. We have exactly 2.5 weeks to finish and button up all the final details on the 40, which includes some actual big details, but we're gonna muscle through it. The windows should be here this week at some point. I've been tracking them. It looks like they're actually gonna be on time for once. On top of all that, a buddy of mine bought this glorious 5.0 Mustang, which is a real pity, because if he didn't buy it, I would have bought it. But we got to straighten up some wiring on that and get it running for him. He wants to make it run for Cruise Week 2. Nothing like waiting until the last minute, right? But that's just how we do. That's how we roll. Stick with us, and we'll see what happens. Okay guys, so as you saw in the last video, we took the car out for a little test drive and the brakes weren't working properly. So today we're going to get into that. Okay, so what we got going on here is, this is the line that came off, and it's got like one of those like adapter fittings to make it fit the right, even though the line's the wrong size. So I think that might have been one of the problems we were running into. This is like a 1/4 inch line. So I went down the auto parts store, got a line with the proper size fittings, and Vince has actually got to work on a Jeep tonight so that we can keep funding this project that he's trying to sell. So I'm going to try this vacuum bleeder. I've had marginal success with these, but we're going to give it a whirl tonight and see how it goes. If not, I'll pull him off to help me bleed him after I get it all together. So stick around. Okay guys, so this is a Mustang of my buddy's. He just bought it, just picked it up, and it's having a problem not starting. I didn't think it was gonna be that big of a deal, and then I got digging into it, and I just figured I'd take you guys along for a little journey here. This is the ignition switch wiring, and yeah, it's been spliced into, cut, added, a whole bunch of butt connectors. I mean, the ignition box is just kind of hanging out here on the floor, and then it just gets better by the day, or by the second. So then if you come out here, we have like 18 taps off of the coil. We have an ignition timing retard box for nitrous just jammed in here. Things are scotch locked and wire nutted, and so I just figured I'd give you guys a start to it, because this may actually become a project that we're gonna make some content on, because it's just, I did not see it being all like this. It supposedly ran not long ago and then just quit running, but I'm starting to have a hard time believing that that was the case. So I'm gonna work on this. I'm gonna and I'll let you guys know. I was able yesterday to kind of hot wire the ignition box and get it to fire off on ether, but the fuel pump isn't working. So, and then also, you guys, obviously the window hasn't went up, so he was taping off the window, and so I thought maybe it was an ignition switch problem. And now after looking at, like I said, I mean, that's your ignition wiring right there, and it comes down to a loop that have some wires looped together, and so we're just going to get rid of all of this and just see if we can get it to just run regular, and then we'll add back the things that we need for the nitrous and the other things. So I'll keep you guys up to date. All right, so I'm gonna give you a little update on where we are with this Mustang project. We did a lot of digging yesterday and found some very interesting things, but we think we found the cause of why it won't start. We think it's the fuel pump. I'm going to show you around and kind of dove into what we our diagnostics. So let's get into that. Okay, so first thing we found was this was it was hooked into the ignition. It was spliced into the ignition switch in place of the wires going straight out. I don't really know why. When we did that, we were able to get this window to roll up, get the windows working again. So then what I did was we started trying to figure out why we weren't getting fuel pressure. So fuel pump. So I come to the back here, and don't mind the nitrous bottle, it's not hooked to anything. I got in here, and as you can see, somebody has soldered in a wire into the fuel pump positive wire, and it runs over here. It was actually running up through here. I don't know to what, it was just tucked under the plastic. And then they also soldered another black wire, which I'm assuming is the ground because it's hooked to the ground. So I guess they were trying to use a separate power source for the fuel pump. But when we got the tank down, because we hooked into those wires and it wouldn't turn on. When we got down into the actual fuel tank, this is what the fuel pump looked like. So I don't think even if you applied different power to it, that was going to run anyway. So that's where we're at right now. We're actually gonna we're getting a fuel pump right now, and we're gonna try to throw the fuel pump in and probably just hook the wires back into the original wiring, because I think what happened was they thought it was a power situation, that's why the pump wouldn't run, but the pump is obviously bad. So we're going to try to use the original wiring and just see if it doesn't work right off the bat when we put the new pump in and plug in the original wiring, then we will we'll go from there. We'll trace down the wires. I'm not really into the whole just running random wires to the back with no relays or fuses, or I don't know what they were doing. So hopefully this should get us started. I mean, we still have a mess of wires that need to be addressed up under the hood, under the dash. I mean, we have wires just going everywhere. So on top of this car being a car that had nitrous installed on it, so there's quite a few things that go into that. Your timing retards and your actual ignition boxes, but it's also had a system in it. So it also had some type of a music system. It's since been pulled out. The only thing left is like the amp and an old compact disc player. But on top of all that, there was the wiring for that. So we're kind of trying to decipher which wires are original and factory, take it back to those, and then rebuild everything else, because everything else is just a fire hazard. So we're going to try to take it back to original wiring, get it started, get it running, and then we'll take you guys down the trip of wiring up ignition boxes and timing controls where they won't burn the car down. So we're going to get into it. There may be some time lapses, there may not be, depending on just time and what we're doing, because in the meantime, we're also doing stuff to this. A little update on what went on with this yesterday. We were able to get the bigger line in, and we switched the brake. That down there is actually the brake switch that actually controls the brake lights. So we were able to get that switched to the back one on the back line, and get the new front line with the bigger diameter front line in. We did bleed the brakes up, but that's about as far as we got. We were doing some on this and some on this, so we're just kind of trying to slam stuff together. This car, if we can get it to run, it may come down to cruise week with us. So we're trying to kind of do both at the same time. So I think today's plan is put the fuel pump and stuff in that, see if we can get the fuel pump to come on. If it does, try running it, trying starting it. And then on this, I think we are going to do the trans pan. It needs a new gasket and a new filter. We also need to put in an alternator because on our 2 test drives, the voltmeter is still showing 12 volts, so it's not charging at all. And the wiring is right, I believe. That was one of the few things that was left that I tried to reuse, but I may have to redo that again too. We also got some new spark plugs or spark plug wires, because even though we took the ones off the wagon and put it on this one, these still aren't good wires that came off the wagon, but they did get us going so we could test other things. So I think that's the plan today. There may be some other stuff when Vince gets here that we're going to dove into. I have no idea, but we're going to be working on this and on this, so stick along for the journey. Okay guys, so we got the fuel pump in, and we're going to set it back up in the car, see if we can get fuel pressure and see if we can get it to run. All right guys, so we were able to get the fuel pump up in the car, and it is running. So there you go, with a fuel pump, you're ready to go. It's going to need a couple other things. We did do a tune-up on it with spark plugs, and we did put a new fuel filter in there and a couple things like that, and there's still a mess of wiring to do. But we're going to take it out for a test drive because that's what's fun. So we're going to do that, and then later on in this video we're going to do, I'll show you what we're doing with the wiring, because it is a complete mess, but we will get it straightened out, and she should be running by the end of the week. So let's go on a test drive. Okay, so long story short, we didn't get to go on a test drive. We pulled it out about 500 feet out of the garage. The ignition box, like I told you, a lot of the wiring on this thing was shoddy. The ignition box was up by my buddy's feet, and we took off, and he rearranged his foot, and he must have kicked the ignition box because it came unhooked. And I think when it did, it pulled the main power wire out, and I think it fried the 6A box that's in here. I tried a couple different times. There was a second box in the car. Needless to say, I don't think it was any good because all the wires were cut really short, so I think somebody had already fried a box once. So needless to say, we did not get to go on a test drive. And I have a 6AL around here somewhere. I don't know. I used to run one on my Firebird. I have one. Where I put it, I don't know, but I do have a good box somewhere. So I'm going to look for that tonight after I get done packing up the shop. And I want to see if we can use that tomorrow to see if we can get it to run. So that's kind of where we are with the Mustang. With the 40 over here, I did get the transmission filter on and the pan on. Did not hook up the shifter linkage yet. Rehook up the shifter linkage. That still needs to be done. It needs to be dropped back down. It needs the holder that goes on the back of the bell housing to the dipstick put back on in the trans mount bolt. That still needs to be done. And then at least the transmission side will be done. Like I said before, the brake line did work. It still needs a little adjustment. I got to do that. And then I think we're doing spark plug wires, and we have an alternator because the alternator on that thing was not charging on either one of the test rides we went on. So we'll be doing that this week. So just stick with us, and we will just keep busting on stuff, and hopefully we'll be able to take 3 cars to Cruise Week. This Mustang, that 40, and my Monte Carlo. But we will see. Stay with us so you can see too. Okay guys, so we did a little testing. We got over here on the Mustang again, and this was what was on top, and I think this might be our problem. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but like, see how those aren't touching the terminals there? And then I thought these were paralleled, like this branch off, but if you look, it's all plastic underneath there. So I don't think those are working either. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take these off, and then we're going to hook it straight with eyelets to these and see if that fixes our problem. We're going to eliminate the MSD box for right now and just let the car work the coil, and we'll just see what happens. I'll keep you up to date. If we get it running, then we'll go on a test drive. But we have another coil too. It ohms out right, but we were using the tester on different things, and it doesn't seem like it's working quite right. So I'm gonna get these off, get the terminals onto the car, put it onto the coil with the regular stuff, and then we'll see what it does. So I'll cut you on when I figure something out. All right, guys, so we did get it running, and we're gonna take it for a little test drive, see how it goes.
It's a Mustang, baby. That means burnout. Woo!
Okay, so as I was saying, the alternator wasn't working. So I replaced the alternator yesterday. Still wasn't working. For some reason, I hooked up the wires wrong on the alternator field circuit. I don't know what I was thinking or what was going on, but I wired those 2 years ago when we just got it running. So what happened was the excite wire, for some reason, got hooked to the ground somehow. I don't know. But anyway, so I got to run the excite wire into the ignition source, so then that way we can have the charging of the alternator. While I'm doing that, Vince, right now,
I'm over here now.
is taking off the wheel and these fenders, these rear fenders, because I don't know if you'll be able to see, but they're not actually bolted all the way in. We've actually been waiting on the clips that actually clip into the body.
They look like they're on, which is half the battle.
Right, so we've been waiting on those clips. The clips did come in, so while I'm working on getting the exciter wire hooked in on the alternator, he's going to work on ripping them off, putting the bolts in, and then putting them back on. So I will let you know how the progress goes. We'll check in here in a little bit. Okay, so we got the exciter wire hooked up down here into the ignition bar with all the other stuff, and as you can see, with just key on, engine off, we're at a little over 12 volts, and then when the car's running, we're at 13. all the way up to more than 14, almost 14 and a half. So that means we got the alternator situated, so we probably didn't need to buy the other one, but you know, when we get thrashing on things and for what we're doing, I'm pretty sure that wire, it ended up getting hooked to ground when we were originally wiring this up, because I think originally I had it on a small junction post that was on the firewall, and we got rid of that, and then I think when we re-put all the wires on and we put the starter solenoid on there, I think it got mixed up for a ground, and it should have been on a junction block that was no longer there. So no big deal. We brought it in, put it on an ignition source, so the alternator will charge. So all right, let's keep moving. All right, so we're here in the shop, and we went to Lowe's and picked up some things. I picked up some carpet. I also picked up some red stain for these door panels. We were trying to do black carpet in the car. There wasn't any at Lowe's that was black. So I'm gonna pull the seats out, because either way the seats gotta come out so we can put carpet in it. He doesn't like the gray that I got. I can always use it and put it down in my garage to set the Monty on. So we got some gray. I'm gonna take the seats out. I'm gonna set the gray in there, see what he thinks about it. He don't like it, then we'll probably go into Home Depot or another hardware store and get some carpet. And I'm gonna work on staining these. I'm gonna do a test panel of this stain to see if we like it for the panels for the doors. So I'll keep you guys updated.
All right, guys, so we're in the middle of a monsoon right now, apparently, so the rain is going to be making a little bit of noise, so I'm going to have to try to speak over it. We got our door panels made. We actually got some carpet that we're laying down into the car right now. We were able to button up the rest of the seat and get it welded and actually put back together in square, which is insanely great. I didn't think it would ever be square. I decided to go, we tried staining a few pieces of wood for the door panels, but it just didn't come out the way I wanted it to. So I think we're just gonna go au natural with them. It looks really good. I was able to paint some of the inside door frame for the actual window now that we got our windows in. So what we're gonna be doing now is we're gonna be laying the carpet in, setting that up, putting the seat in, and maybe adjusting some door pads and getting some actual trimming in. So stick around. So it's been an extremely busy week, but we got a lot of things buttoned up that really needed to get tied together before we go to Cruise Week 2022. We're actually able to get the hood latch done. It is ghetto-tastic, but it works. The only thing I got left to do on that is I got to put a spring on the bottom of it to actually make it hold the latch over to hold the hood down. On top of that, we got the brakes buttoned up, got that finished, so she actually stops. I'm so excited that I won't be breaking the law at stop signs anymore. On top of that, we got the wheels transferred over to the new rims and got our new bullet caps put on, which I love them. They look fantastic. It's almost like Road Warrior status. I need spikes on the end of it. I just think that would tie everything together real nicely. So Dave was like a human Swiss Army knife, and with that theme, he went ahead and did the carpet. I didn't even know you know how to do carpet, but he did it. On top of him doing the carpet, he actually did the carpet in just like regular carpet you can get for your garage at your local hardware store. So it's not form-fitting, but I mean, I think it speaks for itself. It looks damn good. It pulls the car together really well. You don't have to look at the nasty floor anymore. We got that all buttoned up, and it it's like the final time. It just looks so good. I can't get, every time I open the door, it just blows me away. But he got that done. Excuse me, I'm fighting a cold. On top of all that, things that do need to get done, the back wheels. I ordered the wrong wheels. They are way too wide for the car, so they're not going to fit. I had to send those back. Hopefully the new ones will be in before we go. If not, we'll figure something out. I don't know quite how to cross that bridge just yet. But in that vein, we also have, we had finished putting on the new carburetor that I got for the car. It's getting rebuilt right now. We're going to be rebuilding it. This one's okay, but it just doesn't, it's not the right carburetor for the engine. So the carburetor that we have that we're going to rebuild is actually one that we've used a couple times. It's been on Dave Monty, it's been on my Malibu, it's been on the wagon, it's been on my wife's Camaro, it's been an all-around, it's a great carburetor. We just keep adjusting it to work for whatever motor that we're going to put it on top of. Excuse me again. We also have an intake that I would love to put on this. It's a high-rise, however, it only has one port for a temperature sensor or a gauge. I don't have a dual port on the intake since it's an aftermarket intake. There is another port on the engine that I'm going to try to get the plug out of, but it's been fighting me this whole time. If we end up getting to it, great, we'll go ahead and we'll do it. We'll replace the intake and the carburetor. If not, we're just going to do the carburetor and the valve covers. But since we're starting to dwindle on projects that actually need to get done in the car and everything is coming together so good, we actually had a buddy of ours who bought a really sweet Fox body Mustang and it didn't run. And he wanted to try to taste Cruise Week. So I told him, I was like, dude, bring it over. Let's get it in. We'll see what we can have happen. He brought it over. Dave and Dave, perfect combo. Got it running, got it driving within 3 days. Couldn't believe it. Blew me away. It was totally awesome. That's actually why the Mustang's not here right now. He's out having fun with it right now in the rain, but whatever. He's actually putting miles on it and testing out all the things that Dave and Dave replaced and fixed, make sure there's no bugs before we go to Cruise Week. That is ultimately the goal with the 40. Hopefully we'll have a week to drive it around and just make sure we have everything worked out. Fingers crossed. But yeah, so the Mustang is done. This still needs some work. Oh my goodness, the best news of all. The glass finally arrived. Blew me away. I have everything in the package. I couldn't believe it. So this week coming up, we're actually going to be able to finish the doors, finish the final fit and trim on the actual pads and the windows, and actually have functioning windows and pads on the car. I'm beside myself with excitement. So, and then also with that, hopefully the rims would be in too. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. On top of all of that, there is one last thing that we got to try to do. This thing is ridiculously loud, and it just will vibrate the fillings out of your teeth. So, in that, we need to put some sort of mufflers on it. It has a glass pack on it right now, which is okay for the drag strip, but when it comes to the street, not so much. So I actually have some Thrush and some Flowmaster exhaust laying around here somewhere. I gotta find that, and we gotta see if we can make that work and make it actually exit out of the car. Because as you're going down the road, it's pretty cool to sound good, but when you come to a red light, I don't want to die like that. I want to live long enough to become a burden on my family. So we have to see if we can tackle that. But again, guys, thanks for sticking around. We appreciate it. You know, leave us a comment. You know, any feedback is great. Just let us know what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you like, what you don't like. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of our future content. We are still on our series, Road to Cruise Week 2022 in OC. Still hammering our way at it. We still got a couple things we got to do left on Dave's Monty too, lest we forget. But thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you on the next one.